Well, here we are. This is Lydia's still in Florida. I just got back. We had a bombastic weekend in Miami. I mean, that was much more than I anticipated. I didn't realize it was going to be a full-on Stouffer's Pizza Fest. No, I don't know how to describe that.
You had a buffet of buffoonery, if you ask me. I'm the
Uh,
smart one. I always know when to check out. I don't mess around with like knucklehead.
I'm not incriminating myself, but
I
I
am.
thought,
I'm incriminating you.
okay, fine.
You
Well,
enjoyed yourself.
I enjoy myself, but it was, I was kind of put in a cage, kind of literally.
Excuse me, you walked into that cage and you locked yourself in, honey. I saw it. How does it feel to finally get talked under the table by some other, not only one other person, by a room full? I loved it. I'm like, no one knows what it feels like.
Oh my God. Well, the first night I was like, I was looking at you and Mike, and you're just kind of smiling. And I'm like, oh my
When
God.
Mike Hoffman and I are the sanest people in the room, you know that there's a party going down and Tim's involved.
Oh, wow. But then the second night, well, you did, you did on the first night. You're like, tell him to shut the fuck up. You're in the other room.
No, this was
like,
my comment. I came out in my priestess robe, and I said to the one Steve Neverly, because we're I know we're talking a lot. I said, no, you're just stupid. So I went back to bed. But it was the second night there.
The second night, that's the second night there, I thought it was just going to be mellow. And turns out it was less mellow.
Well, there was
like,
a reason we didn't get around to podcasting Rat Bastard, who we stayed with, and that's because he is party central. But why don't you talk a little bit about a chance when I could have escalated the violence, but instead I calmed that shit down, Tim.
Oh, that was magic in the making. And you know what? It needed to be calmed down because we had a little fireworks Latina that was taking on a Filipino drunk, and that could get bad.
And incriminating him for actually something somebody else did, but he had done it before. So suddenly there's a scream fest, and I just got to the point where I'm like, I gotta take care of this. Now, people might assume I would have just knocked both of them out, but I went over, put my hand on the Filipino shoulder, calmed him down immediately.
Well, and one last point, because the person who was kind of annoyed with him the most the whole time was you, and yet you got beyond that, and you were actually the peacemaker. It was an impressive sight.
I can do it. I mean, I got many talents. That's just one of them. Knocking people out is another. Didn't have to be done. First of all, I didn't want to get blood all over Rat's machines.
No.
But you missed. I had two fantastic experiences. One in Orlando, where an 85-year-old Holocaust survivor, who I first met her when I had to help her to the bathroom. And they said, people at the cinema said she comes to all the screenings. So I'm sitting there at the merch table and she goes, oh, she didn't know who I was. Are you a nightclub entertainer? And I said, yeah, kind of in that. So she goes and watches the movie, and then she comes out and she's going, the war is never over. I escaped, my parents and I, when I was 2. We are the only ones that escaped Poland. And I said, yeah, I'm going to Łódź, in a few weeks. And she goes, oh, you know how to pronounce it. And it was her birthday. So somebody bought her a copy of Paradoxia, but she just kept shaking her fist saying the war is never over. And then somebody helped her to her car. And at 85, she drove away. Now, that was good. Last night in St. Pete, I'm sitting there, and, James Faird, you put on that and many of my other shows, said, well, let's try to sell some of these, big ass posters of the war is never over for $75. I said, you're insane, but go ahead. Who buys one? A Afghani, nearly crippled vet, black, transitioning, named Beloved, who bought, and I'm like, am I taking a vet's pension? Who said, thank you for all the work you've done about PTSD. I don't have PTSD. For the vets, I'm like, wow, they have really read between the lines of my work. I was most excited about those two new converts to the Lydian reality.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I was thrilled.
Those were amazing, and even the people that came up to me, and probably you, probably the same people in Miami, and a lot of them said, they knew of you, but they didn't know about you. And yeah, the film is touching people. So that's effective. As Ron Athey says, that's activism. When you people don't come to the table pre-sold, you convert, or at least instigate some
Well,
thinking.
I mean, look, I hope that all of the stuff I've been saying for so long, I mean, the effect I hope to have is anybody that has suffered any kind of damage or still is, and who cannot be suffering trauma and damage right now in this freaking reality, find some bit of comfort or encouragement in this. So, I mean, that's what I hope's going on. So I guess that was a success.
Well, it was a success. And when you fly in and out of Florida and say that's a success, that's really a success. That's really a success.
Speaking about flying, I just saw this report. So ridiculous. In 2020, there were over 7,000 laser, I'll call them attacks, on planes and helicopters.
People are
7,000, which, can cause, I'm surprised there hasn't been more crashing. I mean, it blinds the pilots, it burns their eyes. They said it feels like they're getting punched in the head. When we're flying in and out of places, as are a lot of other people now starting to fly again. I mean, what are people thinking? Go back to freaking paintballs, you goddamn idiots. What are you thinking?
People are bored and dumb. And
welcome to America, asshole.
Well, and then there's a lot of sociopaths out there, because that's a very strange choice to make. It's like when those you catch those teenagers dropping watermelons off of an overpass on a highway. Like, kids, what the hell are you thinking? Oh, you killed someone.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, this is the problem with so much violence, is that I'm not saying that there's necessarily a justifiably correct right place to place violence, but there's a million places not to frickin' place it, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I really like this story, Tim.
Yes.
This is out of the UK. Okay, UK judge orders right-wing extremists to read classic literature or face prison. Ben John, former Leicester student who downloaded white supremacist documents, given suspended jail sentence. So he downloaded almost 70,000 documents, right? Yep. And he only avoided a prison sentence by the skin of his teeth after being told he has to not only read Dickens, Austen, Shakespeare, etc. He's 21, but then he's going to have a test every 4 months. You know what? I think that's a really good freaking idea.
I love it when I hear imaginative judges having solutions that are beneficial just to the world rather than some lazy ass put them in a cage. Years ago, I was doing kind of like a jazz thing in Aalborg, Denmark, and this place, this kind of like a cultural center called Huset, and they're setting up, and there's this kind of makeup, long hair, black metal dude there, and he's setting everything up, and I'm like, what are you doing here? What's going on here? And he said, oh, this is my punishment. I got in trouble for shoplifting some alcohol or something. And the judge says, well, kid, you're not cultured enough. And your punishment is you're gonna have to work the community center for theater and classical concerts and jazz concerts. We actually ended up becoming kind of friends, and he stays in touch every now and then, but I wish more judges were a little more creative like that. I mean, because it only benefits, again, as I said, everyone.
Look, I mean, the problem in this country is the lack of intelligence due to the lack of education, due to the lack of knowing about history, whether it's literary, musical, history, etc. Now, speaking about travel, I mean, this is something I'd rather not see, and this is why I rarely check my luggage. Pile of raw chicken on airport luggage carousel prompts warning. When transporting perishable items like raw meat, the TSA recommends it's placed in a sealed container. Obviously. Well, the TSA Instagram page posted a video from Seattle that shows a pile of raw chicken pieces riding on the luggage conveyor belt. And this was the quote. TSA wrote, "There is a personal foul on the carousel."
Terrible.
Can chickens fly? Well, assuredly no poultry is flying like this. We hear at one time these wings and thighs were cooped up in a cooler. Somewhere between baggage and the carousel, they became free range.
Oh God, the writings were great on this.
I mean, at least the TSA, they can have a little fun now and then. I mean, come on, they've got one of the worst jobs on the friggin' planet.
Oh my! Speaking of death, a Georgia school bus driver was actually run over by her own school bus. They're investigating it. Sandra Goodman, she was of Fairburn, Georgia, was in the parking lot of the school that she drives a bus for, the Landmark Christian School, one of those probably white supremacist cheap Christian. Yeah, this place in the South. Suddenly the thing starts moving forward and crushing her. Now, this is where it gets kind of comical. She was pinned under the bus for hours because people thought she was having mechanical problems, and she was just like working on the bus, like just her legs were like kind of like the Wicked Witch is dead kind of thing. You just saw her legs kind of out there, but no, she was slowly being crushed to death by this bus the whole time. And now they don't even know what happened because there's no kids in it. They don't know why it went forward, but that is being investigated as we speak. And that Christian school and the church that's on the school, and God, him or it or they themselves didn't save her in this case. In fact, maybe killed her. Maybe killed her.
Never does. Speaking about not saving things, what I don't get is we're back at this again, Texas. What the fuck is wrong with you besides a million things? And this is the number one thing today, right now.
Okay.
How the hell do the same subspecies, that would be men, who invented the atomic bomb, endless wars, AK-57s, all manners of immediate death, including maskless super spreaders, decide that women from 6 weeks on are not only not going to be allowed to have an abortion in Texas, but anybody can sue them who finds out they're having one. Anybody can sue the Lyft driver that takes them to the clinic. Anybody can sue what the hell is going on? So it's fine to kill people that are alive, but not to abort someone or something that is not yet alive that could be the repercussions of incest. So in other words, these Republican dunderheads would rather have inbred white people being birthed because of fear, basically, that we know that the immigrant population in this country has not yet taken over the white population, although I can't wait till it does. So we got to keep, popping out those dumb white babies at any cost, even if they're the victims of incest or rape from daddy or granddaddy or the idiot next door. So I don't understand the Republican mindset about freedom to kill through COVID, freedom to kill with all the guns you want, but not the freedom to abort something not yet living. Go fucking figure.
They totally suck. It's one way of entrapping a woman so they feel like they own it or they're connected with this woman. The formative years are kind of interesting, and most of these guys couldn't get laid in high school, so that rejection is still like this flame for their revenge. Fuck the fuck off, guys. You suck to begin with. You always suck.
Going backward. We even have to talk about it, and that the Supreme Court and all those fascist Christians haven't stepped in and said, "What the fuck are you talking about? We already settled this decades ago. Get the fuck out of my uterus, god damn it."
Yeah, it's so dumb. Well, in terms of
chop it off, Timmy, because I've had enough.
All right. Well, there's two quick things. I mean, if I'm thinking about bloody explosions, now that we're talking about abortion. Well, Mount Etna in Sicily is active again. So right now you got a couple active volcanoes in Europe, of course, 2 islands, one Sicily and one in Iceland. So that thing, and that's growing. I mean, that thing is happening all the time. Did you ever, when you were in Catania, Lydia, in Catania, were you ever there when Mount Etna was active?
I've been there.
Yeah,
I'm usually the explosion that enters.
You're the explosion. I mean, that's pretty exciting. If there, I'm into volcanoes these days. All right, here's where we're going to close it. So, all these scientists in France, they're really studying the shit out of bats because bats live 10 times longer than any other species its size, and they don't know what's going on. Their aging slows down as opposed to basically everything else. It accelerates. They don't get cancer. Their ability to repair DNA increases as they get older because I guess their body figures things out rather than gets dumber. I don't know. Everything else basically decreases. They can get Ebola, rabies, coronavirus. They can get all this stuff, but they don't get sick.
Isn't it interesting with you saying all these facts that the bat and the vampire bat, which people didn't even know all these facts before, and what is a vampire, but something that sucks blood for eternal life. I find that very interesting, that this was just kind of an automatic, association from a creative writer about human vampires.
Yeah, well, exactly. So bats, I guess they're insect diet or blood diet. I don't know. They are studying the hell out of them. They have something figured out. Actually, I'm going to close it with something you like. The absolute.
I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite insect to eat? I do like crickets with guacamole.
I have to be honest. This is a little trick question. A lobster.
Very good.
That's my favorite one. All right. Massive jellyfish infestations on the shores of Crimea right now. I mean, it's next fucking level. It's basically a giant gelatin soup, and all these from the
heating up of the water.
Well, it's the heating up the water, but really it's the heating up. It's the shrinking of the rivers that would kind of create a brackish water where they would not infest. But now it's just way more salty, and they're all coming in. And they're crying. Oh, here comes a dad pun. They're crying. Crimea River. I mean, isn't that what that'd be called? The Crimea River. I mean, well, anyhow, the Crimea River is shrinking, and everyone's crying about it. So Crimea River. Anyhow, but yeah,
crying when they get stung by a few of those 100,000.
Well, the kind of wealthy Moscow rich Russian tourists are like, I don't like this. It's like,
well, I always wanted to piss on a Russian jellyfish sting. Just saying.
Well,
not saying I haven't before.
Well, good point. The Azov Sea is a lot saltier, and it's basically just a massive chunky soup of gelatinous jelly chunks that they're not. It's not like a Portuguese man of war.
All right. Well, that doesn't really lead into our next guest, but let's just say, as somebody who has tried to cut through the gelatinous jellyfish junk of the music industry by creating something uniquely her own, we're featuring today on the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Merrill of Tune Yards. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl and our special guest, Merrill of Tune Yards. Thank you for joining us.
My sincere pleasure.
So here we are.
Thanks. And grid is hot shit.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it.
Man.
It's a fun one to play with.
It sounds like it. The little I've heard from that.
Well, maybe I'll treat you to our unreleased LP we have of spoken word where I'm reading Henry Miller, David Warshawitz, John Retchie, and myself. Well, that can be negotiated.
It's still not mixed yet, but it's
freaking great.
Even better.
You went to Smith College, and although I didn't go to Smith College, I took classes there because I went to UMass Amherst.
No way.
And I'm a little older than you, but we might have crossed paths. What year did you, if I may ask,
I graduated 01.
When did you start going though?
97.
So I was living in Northampton till 98. But we're not here to promote colleges, although last thing about Smith, great music library, actually an incredible music library.
Really good. I have fond memories of listening to LPs of all things in the music.
Merrill, not to be ageist, but you were born after I was 2 years on stage.
79.
I was, I mean, I might have been a teenager, but there you were. And you were born. I had nothing to do with it.
I'm grateful. I know I'm young, but I'm grateful that you came before me. You paved some things I needed It really helped. Thank you.
I wish we were both coming right now, but that can be discussed later. I'm just saying,
Oh,
you
boy.
know, to me, what's interesting, especially with the podcast or just in my curatorial possibilities, is it's so important to have especially women of different generations brought to the table, because it doesn't matter when you were born or where you were born. What really matters is what you're doing in the time and space that you occupy. And so that's what I want to discuss with you. Was it weird? Because first of all, your music is indescribable. It always changes. You're kind of a musical schizophrenic like I am. So was it weird that right kind of out of the gate, you got a pretty respectable label to release your stuff, or just like, what else is there at that point? It's the way it should be.
I mean, it was weird. I didn't know what 480 was. Someone said the Pixies, and I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea. And also, I was so depressed, in those late 20s, early 30s. I didn't know what was going on. So I didn't have any other reason to live besides playing music. I mean, that sounds drastic, but
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, right? It's just the truth. So in a way I thought like, okay, are you going to pay me to do this some more so that I can live longer and feel better about being alive? Sure. Let's do this.
Merrill, right now, are you still depressed?
No.
Good. I mean,
Really
there's
changed.
a million reasons to be depressed, but I'm doing a documentary on artist depression, anxiety, and rage. And I don't have depression or anxiety, but a lot. I mean, on the top of the scale are musicians, and then poets, and then everybody else as far as how much depression or anxiety they have. And it's really rife now. And it's great that right now you are not depressed.
I know,
because there are a million reasons to friggin' be depressed.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And I think not being depressed is, if you can do it, kind of a rebellion. It's not that easy, but
right. I was going to say, I think I'm not depressed because I'm fucking pissed. Like I think for me, depression was just
rage is better. Yeah, I endorse.
I just thought we just saw that freaking Woodstock 99 movie. Have you all seen that?
Well, I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I remember when it came out. Pretty controversial. The Limp Bizkit performance was pretty controversial, right. If I remember correctly.
Right. And I was thinking about how, I mean, I've been pissed for a long time at the world, but I think in the 90s there was a sense of a false sense for white kids. I'm going to say suburban white kids like myself, that the things that we had to fight against were kind of like, we're very far away, that even growing up an hour outside of New York, that it was like the fucked up shit that was happening in New York, and Giuliani clearing the streets, and the experiences of people of color, which were not my experience growing up white in Connecticut, that those were so far away. And so we had like Dave Matthews Band, and I had Ani DeFranco to kind of help me be angry about having a vagina. And but in other words, like that, there's something about that documentary where it's just like you're looking at all these white 20-year-old mostly dudes and going like, they're so angry, but like at what at what and it's like, you should be angry, but you don't know what you're angry about. You don't know what you've lost, really, and I think it's taken me a long time to articulate what was taken from me or generations ago, or what I've lost.
Well, that's one reason I really wanted to talk to you, is because, your lyrics are great. They're kind of mysterious, but not. I mean, you're making political points. You're doing it with a music that's catchy, but always weird and always different. You've been accused, oh, fuck off, of I mean, what is appropriation? Give me a freaking break. Whatever moves you to groove you is what you do. So I don't believe in that. That's just bullshit. You know what? It's just more spoiled people pointing fingers at other people that do shit when they don't do. It's armchair bullshitters.
The rat race for authenticity. I mean, everyone's going to collapse under their own weight on that one. I mean, you can't have an influence. That whole thing.
You can't expand your own boundaries musically and intellectually and every other way.
Well, and I think I think I've accused myself more than anybody else, which I don't know if you all have that experience, but like
No, but please carry on.
But like I say something about myself and then somehow it gets like, well, people have accused you of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I call attention to the fact, isn't it weird that a white woman from Connecticut is singing in Swahili and is, making these rhythms with her ukulele? And you know what I mean? Like I think I was the first person to call attention to it and say, just like big question mark, instead of bad or good.
Well, that's great. But let me say, get out of your own way, motherfucker, because you can do whatever you goddamn want. You want to sing in Swahili with the ukulele? I'm all for it, because the weirder, the frickin' better. And I find it interesting because I've read some interviews with you, and whether it's your generation or just your wisdom about calling out white privilege, which is really important. And especially, somebody that's been a political, poetical protester all along, grew up in a black ghetto, know what that is, but I'm still the most privileged of all because I don't fucking care and I do whatever I fucking want. So it's really important. And I find it interesting that, maybe you're calling people out to claim and then disclaim what they might say because they're so fucking dim-witted about what you're doing.
Right.
Just a theory.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is pointing it. I mean, we've been playing shows, which is nuts. And I look out at a vastly white audience, and I'm always just very, I don't know. If I could do it again, I would spend way less time in the self-hating guilt space. And I would just naming. I don't want to say calling out. I want to say naming, because then you're like, this is what's happening. We can talk about it. And the people who, the times that I've actually been, my music has been called, appropriative, or this is a white woman taking Black culture and stuff. It's hurt me the most when I am hearing it from Black people specifically. And I don't think it's, it's not like so often that it feels, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, should I stop making music altogether? And it's not,
you're not exploiting anyone. It's not like Paul Simon Graceland here, where you're ripping people off and you're taking their money. I mean,
it's a matter of the time we live in that is so perverse, where everything should be uncensored and allowed, but there is so much more finger pointing, like, not like, so much more criticism for the wrong freaking reason.
Well, and I'm fine with criticism and what I will say, the positive part of it is that it is reckoning with money. I've noticed that white people don't like to get rid of their money. Like they're perfectly willing to apologize. I'm issuing an apology, but like all that money that companies said we're devoting this to Black Lives Matter after George Floyd, did you read that article that none of it has been paid out? Oh, so I appreciate, I've given more money in the past decade of my life because I realized like, oh, this is part of the inherited wealth privilege. So like I have had more opportunities in the music business than in general than people of color because I'm white. And here's a way that I can fucking pay it back. You know what I mean? So I don't mind criticism if it creates change. And that's what criticism and debate and all this stuff is for. And I think all this, what is it called? A moral panic. I was listening to a podcast about moral panic about political correctness, Let's not panic about being criticized. Like, let's accept and listen to criticism and then move on and change together from there instead of getting so, paralyzed. I think I was paralyzed by it for a long time.
I just read out about toxic normality, which to me is one of the worst things, because fuck off if you can be as normal as you want, but you're not going to be on this podcast. And one thing I just want to say personally and directly to you, and you said it to yourself, is like, there, especially as women from whatever class of society, from whatever gender, race, whatever situation, drop the self-hatred, drop the insecurities, drop the I must be like bullshit. But I mean, you were liked in spite of being really weird, kind of political, an appropriator, and you came so out of left field. And look, I'm more in the fact that there aren't more Black people at my shows, especially spoken word too. I don't get it. Merrill, I don't know about you. I'm glad anybody's at the show.
Right.
I don't care who they are. I don't care what color they are, what sex they are, what they're wearing, what they look like, or where they came from. Hey, I'm happy to have you.
You know what it mostly makes me think of is this, when what I have come to understand for myself is that the more white people understand what we have lost in growing up in segregation, essentially, the more we're invested in doing actual anti-racist work instead of this allyship bullshit. And that's the thing that I don't think so I'll say that as like, that I have feelings and sadness and grief about the fact that I'm very clear that my life is segregated still, even though I've made vast efforts for it not to be that way. It's not as much a condemnation of our wonderful white audiences who pay all of our tickets, like.
One of the things, I don't know if you saw that Netflix show Them. Did you see that? It was about the first, it's fiction, but it's kind of fiction, semi-horror, about the first Black family to move into Compton when it was all white.
Right.
And
I haven't seen it.
The horror is the way white people behaved. And then there's also ghosts in the house, which is a double horror. And when I was watching that, I thought, growing up in an all Black ghetto, there were many ghettos in Rochester, was not anywhere near as horrible, because I love the race riots. I was all on their side, as growing up Black at any point in the history until still this day in this country. And this whole thing about critical race theory at this moment is so full of fucking shit that we can't actually teach. I've always been the anti-American who tries to lay it on the line about how this country was founded, not on religious freedom, but on a religious perversity, that we are still a slave nation, that most of the country is enslaved. And if you think $15 an hour is taking you out of poverty, it is not. Slavery has a different picture now, and most of us are in it. And most of this country is in, no matter what color. And it's worse if you go up and down the color scale, and prison and all the rest. And this country is just, there's so many things wrong with it that, that's one reason I can't stop talking about it, because it's astonishing to me every fucking day. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we do music, because within that music, we try to save ourselves and salve other people with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think your music does. I've read a lot of comments about what you do, and people really, it's groovy. People dig it. And trust me, I love groovy music. I can't say I make it that often, but it's important to have something groovy that still has an underlying political bent that you're sneaking in there.
Well, and for better, for worse, I'm coming to this call feeling like this is fucked up right now. My uncle passed away yesterday in Kentucky, and there's something about not a COVID.
Oh, thank God.
Not a COVID, but he had been ill for a while. But I talked to my mom, and she's like, the weirdest thing is I can't go. She can't go, she can't go do the memorial. Like,
why is that?
Because of COVID. Because she's 80.
Right.
Are
you from Kentucky?
My mom's from Kentucky. I
love Kentucky. Grew up in
Kentucky's
Manhattan.
Beautiful. Yeah, my dad grew up in the Bronx. I was born in Jersey, and then we moved around the tri-state area my whole life.
I'll be in Kentucky soon. I spent some time in Louisville. I love it. I do. It was, the state that refused to take sides during the Civil War. Not that there isn't incredible segregation there. There really still is.
Did they not ultimately side with the South? Or they always?
No, they did not. That much I know.
Incredible people from Kentucky. I don't know about your dad, but Hunter S. Thompson, Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, the museum there.
Abe Lincoln was born there, right?
Johnny Depp, who's on the outs with just about everybody because he's a fucking dick.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
And a dick nobody wants.
Oh my God.
Speaking of Not really.
But this is all to say that it's a fucked up time. It feels really. We just came off tour.
Where'd you go?
We drove north, Portland, Seattle, then over to Boise, Idaho, down Salt Lake City, Denver, all the way to Houston. And by the time we got to Texas, it was like Delta variant the wazoo.
Red zone.
Fans were writing me being like, are you like, we're not coming to your show. The ICUs are full. And like this stuff that I don't know that, being a songwriter, being a musician that is dealing in anything political, I feel like there's already, which i.e. being in a female body, you're like already dealing, I feel, with a certain degree of politics and other shit besides just doing your tour thing. But somehow being like a spokesperson for the CDC, making like moral decisions about whether to play a show or not.
I know we're going on tour soon. And the thing is, I'm going to go on tour. I'm just wondering if we should mask our cunts.
Probably.
I mean, I'm not really all for the female. I wanted to hear that. I mean, I'm not really all for the female condom. They don't feel that good, but I mean, we use condoms, we use seatbelts. What the fuck? I want like full face. I want burqas on all the men. I want hazmat suits. I'm really into costumes, and I think we just need to be more creative. I mean, mask those motherfuckers. What
mask
can I
those
say?
Motherfuckers, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, metal masks.
It could go both ways, though. I feel like, if I'm just thinking about a mask there, it could also, be like, fuck masks. You know what I mean? That could be the message behind it. But
well, I say fuck you who don't want to wear a fucking mask. How about
exactly.
that? Fuck you and die. You know what? I mean, what it's being, look, I'm not a scientist, but it's being proven that, a little precaution goes a long way. Excuse me.
So did you go ahead and you played the Houston show though, right? And
yeah, we played all 3 Texas shows.
No super spreader.
Were there no Republicans at your show?
I'm sure there were. Well, I would ask them every night very nicely. Thank you so much for wearing your mask. Also, y'all, I'm pregnant. So, which is an unexpected 42-year-old event. And so I was like, by the end I was showing, I'm 7 months pregnant now. And I'd be like, here's my pregnant, but can you please put your mask on? And totally every show, there would be people that didn't put their masks on. And it was just I was going to say that having an anger and a fuck you attitude has helped so much. I feel like I can't perform without a degree of that.
I hope not, honey. Otherwise, I mean, where are we putting you?
Exactly.
I mean, so if you want to go over to Lana Del Rey, fake ennui, I don't want to put you there. So don't go there, please.
No, but I could, some shows I feel a lot of love for the audience. Generally, I do. But then there's got to be this moment where I'm like, and I'm going to poke you, because we all need to, I'm poking myself so much and I'm hurting. And that's all we need to be poked, awake. And so again, thank you for paving that way. Because
I'm a fucking poker, no doubt.
You're a poker. But having that, it felt it was real. I was really pissed at people. And how do you stand up there and say, wow, I'm giving so much up here, and I gotta.
You can't wear a freaking mask. I know.
And I can't wear a freaking mask. I gotta sing this shit. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't wear a freaking mask for us. It's. You can't choose who the audience is, but you can certainly kick the motherfuckers out if you don't like that they're not wearing a mask. Just say my audience is smaller than yours, and not so hard. That's why I made my own decorative masks. Hazmat suits next.
I would say selling masks. I wanted to sell masks by the end because I thought
yes,
have them at the merch table.
Mandatory buy the mask or don't get in, which. You know what? I mean, to me, let's go just back to something what you said before. It's like, to me, why this time is not worse than any other time is because all times are basically the frickin' same since I'll just go as far back as the Middle Ages. It's still feudal times. We're still a planet of slums. There's still incredible classism. It's still run by emperors that have no fucking clothes and should be guillotined. What is the difference between now and the 1500s, 1700s, 1800s, 1950s. I don't see it. The only issue is we have more access to how absolutely perverted the patriarchy, call it what you will, I'm going to call it that, has continued to fuck the planet and every individual who's not part of that fucking cult to the nth degree forever. So to me, it's the same as it always is. Same as it always was. No different to me than ever. I'm not surprised or shocked about a fucking ass clown who's wearing a diaper, running this country into the ground for X amount of years, because every other asshole before him did the same freaking thing.
Yeah.
And welcome to today, when we're going to have women and children continents away, doesn't matter, who are going to be executed and sold into sexual slavery, as happens everywhere at all fucking times. It doesn't stop. Sorry. I'm angry.
I mean, well, and
hello,
also
share the rage.
Like Reagan, right? I mean, like you were shouting.
I was raging
when I was a
Reagan.
wee one. Yeah. And
you were in diapers.
I was in diapers, and it was the same shit. And I was listening to Michael Jackson, and I was caught up in the 80s like so many other people. But I mean,
I don't hold your childhood against you. We all had to be, we were all children at one point. I want to go to those lyrics you have about parents are children.
Mm-hmm.
What is that song called again?
Hold Yourself.
Hold Yourself. Parents are children. Is it truly? It's often the sad truth.
Right. And I want to know, I have not read your book yet, but someone was telling me about you writing about children in your book.
Motherhood is not compulsory. I'll gladly send you that article or as many as you want to read.
Because that was my song of, as I like what they call in the UK, being child free. And then
I'm child proof.
And then I'm in a body that I thought could never have babies, and I'm in a straight relationship, and poof, I got pregnant.
Well, let's hope it's
so here I am.
Good luck. My theory is if it doesn't fit in, it doesn't come out. I just don't find it natural to squat a watermelon out of my tight velvet.
You're not making a Lydia Lunch lullaby album anytime
soon? I'll sell you my fucking eggs, but I don't think they'd work. All the people I deal with are infants. I don't need anymore. But however, I do have many talents when it comes to children. I've worked with them my entire life.
Yeah.
I used to be the baby. Now I'm the whatever you want to call it. Good luck with that, because that is going to be a difficult road. A new human being into this world now. But look, we survived. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a comfort to hear you say that it's the Middle Ages, but it makes me think, well, then this is not necessarily the worst time to have a child. It's just another bad time.
Also, I mean, Middle Ages where? I mean, in Europe, in the Middle Ages.
Talk about the Middle Ages, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Black
25% of people died of violent deaths in Europe. So it's like, I just got stabbed by a sword, like walking down the street. So that's not really going on, at least in the industrial world.
Well. It's, I mean, how many people die violent death in America? I would say at least 10 or 15%.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but
it does. I'll get the stats.
All right. No, I don't know.
The Middle Ages stats.
But I will say this. The top 48 of the top 50 most dangerous cities on the planet that are not officially in a war are in the Americas, North and South America, which, the blood's really close and it's hard to sever that chain. I mean, the colonialization, I mean, it's all really close there. And
there's so many reasons that there's violence in this country. First of all, it started on violence. It was started on the annihilation of the indigenous people. It was started on religious fraud. It always has been the democracy, the hypocrisy. It's bullshit. It's based on lies. We export the lies. We export war. We kill everybody we can. And then when it comes back into your own fucking backyard, you think it's a freaking issue. I mean, there's always been a civil war. It's always been an uncivil war in this country. And so then small women with big mouths, hello, Merrill, got to come up and try to find ways of just readdressing that imbalance however we can in the small ways we can.
Yeah. And feeling. I mean, I think call it pleasure. I feel like you talk a lot about pleasure, but just actually being alive, which is pleasure and pain, as we all know, but in not not sacrificing the pleasure until things are somehow better so that we deserve to feel pleasure. That sounds very
well. I've always
Christian.
been greedy. I've always been greedy, and I like to divide my day, daylight hours, all the bullshit that's out in the rest of the world. Night falls. Hey, my turn, my time. It's going to be a fucking pleasure avalanche.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Because we deserve it, especially as women. It's the first thing they fucking steal from us.
Totally.
Hello.
Totally. And
time to reclaim.
And that then we're alive and we're aware, we're awake for everything that's happening instead of numb to it. So I think that was something I denied myself for a really long time. And now I'm like, oh no, that's part, like if I don't feel that,
it's denial to yourself.
And exactly. And there's no reason for living. Like I think, Joanna Macy, she does a lot of writing about the place we're in environmentally, etc. But she was talking about if we're not glad to be here, like glad, like joyous in it, then we don't have any fire under our asses to work for all the things that are important to us.
And again, I mean, one of my mantras is pleasure is the ultimate rebellion, because it has to be, because it is ours to reclaim. And the thing is, no matter how fucked everything is, besides that, it is so amazing to be on this most miraculously weird planet with incredible fucking people in incredible communities that come together and do incredible art, music, literature. And the thing is, there came a point, at least in my life, where I had to focus on what are really the benefits of this. I will gladly complain, take the rage to the stage about the big issues that bug me. But you know what? Night falls, get the fuck out of my face, motherfucker, because it's my time. And the ladies will be doing it for themselves, for each other. And trust me, I might have to send you a few suggestions of just some of the witchery kind of toys that Coven likes to employ in the search for the ultimate pleasure.
Bring it on, man.
And I love that laugh.
The 40s am I not supposed to be in my sexual peak right now?
Honey, I think you will be there for a long, long time.
Thank you. I needed that.
Take it from your sister witch. It keeps feeling better. Hey, the more it feels good, the better it feels. Keep it going. Now, hi, Merrill.
Hi.
I was saying to Simon, our producer, that I've never heard a man say he felt guilty for his appropriation. Let's just get that. And Simon said, not anyone he respected. And then, just because I'm trying to get you to laugh as much as possible, I was telling Tim that I once did, because Simon was talking about, I don't need to go into it. And I said, well, I guess nobody has ever heard, because I did it once and it has not been released yet. Well, one of the worst bands ever. I like to cover the worst bands ever. I did a medley with Big Sexy Noise, who never even heard one of the most horrible bands ever. Eli's coming heart to heart. One is the lonely. Mama told me not to come. Open up that window, let some air into this room. Big Sexy Noise never heard the hideous Three Dog Night.
Really?
By the way, more fucking rehabs Chuck Negron than anybody, and also
still performing.
80 million records sold. They did not write any of their music, didn't make a penny. And he was at the house that the Boogie Nights murder scene and Wonderland. The murder was the only night Chuck Negron was not there scoring drugs, was the night supposedly that the murders went down. A little bit of rock.
So he was rolling with John Holmes a little bit, I guess.
Hey, I would have rolled John Holmes right down the Hollywood fucking hills after taking his wallet. I'm just saying, cut that off and serve it for dinner.
Well, I mean, to Chuck's credit, he's doing the casino circuit to this day on half a lung. He has half of a single lung.
I wonder if that's from doing so many. Look, it is the best rock bio, hard to find. Three Dog Nightmare. I love the rock tragedies. Not being one myself, I do love to see the way they fall.
That's right. Thank God you're not a rock tragedy. You're a rock success story.
Honey, I have nothing to do with rock other than I like to throw it occasionally. That's, in the right direction. I don't know what you're talking about there. I am the most successful artist I know, because I've done everything I wanted, and fuck all y'all the rest to hear and ever. It's not based on anything but doing what you want to do. Yeah. You do what you want to do. Now let's talk about how you managed to compose these wildly disparate compositions. Now, you play the ukulele, right? Which is a rare instrument. Do you play the tuba? If not, would you take it up for me, please?
I do not, and I would love to.
I would love a woman behind a tuba.
Great.
What other instruments do you play?
My mom taught me piano. She's a piano teacher. She taught me piano.
I love the piano. I love the piano.
From like age 6. She wouldn't start me till I was 6. I begged and she wouldn't. But I play drums. I mean, not.
I love when you play drums live. I mean, I love to see a woman beat on anything on stage.
Yeah, that's what it's all
especially
about.
Yeah, I love it.
And
you usually play 2 toms live. What are you playing when you're live pounding?
I used to
things?
play a tom and a snare. So I'd stand up and play a tom and a snare.
A floor tom?
A floor tom, yeah. And then we got it so that actually Eli Cruz, I don't know if he's
I know him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Eli's coming. I hope not all over the snare, Eli. Hold on.
I definitely know Eli Cruz.
Eli Cruz, the infamous Eli Cruz. He came up with putting a subharmonic synth on the tom channel. So every time, so we'd get the sub coming through as if it were a kick drum.
So would you have that triggered live, or is that just for the rackers? Okay,
live,
cool.
Yeah. He got the Cosmos, the PV Cosmos, if you want to know the real engineer nerddom.
That would be Tim Dahl.
And I don't play a lot of standard sitting down kit, but I like to wail.
Standing up is great. I mean, I love standing drums, and I've played with drummers Ian White standing drums. I love it,
And also I would say I play looping pedals, even though that, we can argue about it, but
why would we?
I'm pretty adept at them after 10 years. And
I like the looping pedals.
Which one? I mean, they break a lot. I always found, because if you're actually playing them, because you're constantly switching them.
Yeah.
So you have to have a backup. I don't know.
Yeah.
Your boomerang, is that your one of
No, I use the Boss.
The DL4? Oh, the Boss. Okay.
RC. Now they're calling it the RC1. It used to be the RC2.
Are you sponsored by pedals?
Not at all. They don't give a
damn.
They don't give a shit.
Damn woman.
Yeah.
Damn woman.
Just like Smith College won't buy your shit. Yeah.
Hello, I hear you. That's why we gotta buy our own shit. That's right. I mean, how much does a freaking pedal cost?
It's $100. I carry several with me. Yeah, but
I bet you do.
But I beat up on them, and I think that those Boss, rectangular pedals, they can take a beating like very few other pedals can. So that's what I use.
As the boss in my own band, I feel the same way.
There you go.
You take and give a beating. So you use on the latest album, you use the DX7. I was talking about that earlier, and maybe the timbral backdrop of popular music of the 80s, or you could actually argue the synclavier, but the DX7 is the poorer person's version of that. You're in the Bay Area. This is a fun fact. Stanford, evidence that this is their second biggest royalty, because that's where it was developed at Stanford.
Wow.
Only after the Google algorithm.
No way.
Because of the DX7.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and fun fact.
Wow. Yes. I was gonna say
get nerdy on us. Go ahead, Merrill. I love a female nerd almost as much as I
was gonna say,
nerds.
Speaking of pleasure, I mean that the DX7 we have is actually Nate's dad's from way back when. But yeah, just the visceral pleasure of.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask,
yes.
Have you ever squirted or wet yourself on stage? Well, I have to ask. I mean,
I haven't breaking up the nerd conversation.
I haven't listened to all of the podcasts, but is this like one of your, like, we ask every guest?
No, not at all,
honey. I'm only asking you because I mean, you might break water on stage. I mean, I'm just saying,
right?
I've flooded the stage before. I just thought
that's a really good
and
question.
Well, Lydia's a Mount St. Lydia sometimes on some of these stories.
No.
I think that's I'm too much. I think I'm maybe in my latter years. I feel like I'm too
well, hey, I'm still tight. It's just that occasionally, it comes out.
I feel
sometimes you're just so overwhelmed with pleasure with the sound.
No, but that's what I mean. I feel like I've been too uptight. I feel like I've now
We're gonna work on that, honey.
I know, right? Like being out on this tour and thinking like, why did I worry about the dumbest shit on stage?
Well, do you wear pants? You got to stop that right now.
No, I
mean,
I usually wear dresses, I guess.
Well, and then you got to make sure you don't have tight panties on, or maybe you should. I mean, it depends on how much. Well, how much do you want to share with
you know?
The audience?
I went to Smith College. You think that I'd have a better education on these things?
Jeez, I'm telling you,
Oh my
I'm
God.
really.
Punchline.
This is the problem with female universities. Where are the courses in female ejaculation?
Well, we did have one, Lydia.
Oh, and success.
I didn't go. It wasn't mandatory.
You were waiting for a private
I was,
lesson.
you know, a prudish. I grew up in suburban Connecticut. You think I was comfortable?
Honey, time to cut those cords.
Well, you know, we had another Smith College graduate on
Tanya Pearson. She's got no
Tanya
problem
Pearson.
doing any of that. Nah. I'm
Well,
telling you.
We
And by the way, I'm rolling my dress up over my naked thighs as I say this.
Great.
Just if you see my arms moving, I'm like kind of getting a little bit fictitious.
Fictitious.
well, I took my class. I took my sociology class there with Richard Fantasia, known as Dick Fantasy. I don't know if, that's what I recall them. All the students were like, "Oh, you're taking a class with Dick Fantasy." Yeah, Richard Fantasia.
All right, Tim. I have to admit, I don't know when the last time I had a Dick Fantasy was, but then again,
He was a great
ladies are
professor.
doing it for themselves. Yeah, well, I doubt he could have helped me.
in terms of squirting on stage with Lydia, I think a lot of times, you know.
Wait. A lot of times I did it once with you.
I've seen it more than once.
It
But
was with Big Sexy Noise. I was
no, because it happened more than once with me. But it doesn't matter. What I'm
you would
getting
know
at-
more than I would because it's just
That's
natural.
I have a different point. I'm not.
Let me hear about it.
Well, I think a lot of times, cause just like many stages, they hide or sneak the subwoofer under the stage. So sometimes when you're just like, as a bass player, it always drives me nuts because you're just like, boom. I don't even know what the fucking pitch is because I'm.
So I squat over the subwoof.
But basically, yeah, I think that subwoofer under the stage can
Yeah.
get a lot of Action Jackson going.
A lot of
you know.
vibrations. Yes, some of the most pleasurable experiences of my life.
Boom,
have
boom,
been
boom. Say hello to my little
sitting on a
friend.
bass
Yes.
amp. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, some of the best experience of my life have been sitting on a bass player.
as a singer, nice.
Very, very good.
I had to say it.
But as a singer in bigger halls, when the subwoofer is just out of control, are there moments? I guess you're using a lot of inner monitors, but are there moments where like it's muscle memory? I think I'm singing the right pitch, but you're like, but actually,
No, thank you for
not really
saying this.
clear.
It basically
Yeah.
erases all pitch reference. And so if
I know,
I started using a keyboard on stage because the little Yamaha was the only way, you know, because Nate and I have been married now for a while. We've been playing together a dozen years. He plays bass. We write music together. We have great communication after all these years. But like when I can't hear, it's those low pitches. I can't, you know.
it's
weird. I used to say like, can you play the harmonics? Because I can't fucking hear myself. I can't hear where
it's amazing because as a bass player, I'll be on the road, and in my head, because I'm just being bombarded by the subs of the actual house system. In my head, I'm like, okay, that's where the pitch is, and then 30 seconds in, sometimes it gets anchored what it really is, and just so disoriented.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of
and
vertigo almost.
Totally.
Like, oh my
and
god.
by that,
and also, Merrill, you're doing a lot of, disparate melodies in this music. I mean, you're hitting a lot of notes and you have to hear what's going on. Otherwise, it is just kind of musical interference.
Totally.
It's very hard to get people don't realize how hard it is to get a stage mix. What might sound good out in the audience could sound like shit on stage.
Well, and
you got to hear what you're doing. It's very difficult.
We did for a long time. We didn't use in-ears for many reasons, mostly money, but also it's not punk enough. You know what I mean? Like only frou-frou bands who have a lot of money and like have whatever backstage riders that are now is exactly what we have, kale and stuff like that.
You have a backstage rider because you just fucking put it on the contract.
That's right.
It's not a big deal.
Exactly. But eventually as I had ringing in my ears and I realized, so now it's a lot easier to get to have pitch be, it's just right there.
Much more focused, and you're saving your voice, as Rod Stewart in his autobiography, I think it's called I'm Rod or something like that. Anyhow, but it's not called that. It's something like that. But
my Rod is your Rod. I wish.
No.
That's my next book.
Because he was blasting his voice, and he was getting these cortisone shots, and he started getting the chipmunk cheeks, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And the tabloids are making fun of him.
Was it Rod that did that great song Vaseline Alley? Oh, it was Gasoline Alley.
All right.
I had to say.
Anyhow, well, eventually he surrendered to the inner monitors, and he says it completely gave him another 10 years.
That's the thing. And I had to retrain my voice and everything. I was on a road to, because when you're depressed in your 20s, you're like, well, I'm not going to live past Jesus's age. So what do I have to lose? And then suddenly you're 34 and you're like, fuck.
What do I got to do now?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, you know what they say about Jesus? His father was a fucking asshole.
Oh, do they say that? Sorry, that was the vacuum.
Oh my God. Well,
this is Coco,
Oh.
by the way. I know she won't. This is
Coco.
Coco's part Chihuahua,
Yes,
part something else.
Something else. Yep. Part something.
Does Coco wear a tutu?
Not yet. Only a fox.
Well, I think you better get her a tutu.
Yeah,
What a tongue. Oh my God, get her a tutu. Any names for the baby?
We were calling him Keanu on tour.
What?
We were into Keanu Reeves on tour, so we were calling.
Oh boy, careful with that one.
But did you know that Keanu means cool breeze over the mountains?
Oh no.
In Hawaiian.
Yeah. Not bad, right? No.
Not bad.
We've got some, but we're
well, Lucifer would be appropriate.
There you go.
I mean,
Lucifer.
I was just
actually,
wow.
Lydian actually is such a beautiful name. I mean, Lydia is as well, but Lydian.
I have to question where my father got it. It must have been a prostitute, but I do love the name. Thank you very much. It could be Lydian as the male version is Lydian, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As the Greek mode, or
exactly.
as the
a lot of those modes are also good names.
Could be Hydian as well when I'm feeling really
Mixolydian would be a strange name.
I don't know.
Or
Lydian?
Mixolydian, or okay.
All right.
Locrian.
There you go. Locrian. but this is back to the 80s timbres.
Yes. I mean,
as much
pull it around.
As much
Please.
as I there's a lot in retrospect of the 80s that I don't like referencing, but
of course,
but there's so much, it's just giving into the pleasures that are there.
Well, and Merrill, tell us, like, who were some of your favorite bands from the 80s, 90s, now, whenever? I mean, what music really inspired you when you were first starting, and what inspires you now? I mean, I know it's hard when you're making music. Like, I mean, I go through periods where I have to dive in and know what's going on just so I can know if I love it or hate it. I want to know what's going on. What were you listening to when you were a teenager or your early 20s?
A lot of dub reggae in my early 20s. The Weirdos, like, I think when I understood what
the Weirdos
Lee Perry was doing, I was like, wait, you can do that?
Oh, the Weirdos of fruits rock reggae.
Yeah, I mean, just from a production point of view, I think I didn't know any women who called themselves producers, even though Lydia, you are a producer. Like, we're all producers. We didn't.
We're all we produce. Yes,
and so many women were already, were clearly producing their own records, even if they weren't credited as such. But I think I've always had that ear to want to have the whole of the music in my control. And so,
well, it's your music. You know what you want it to sound like. Hello.
Exactly.
Period. Hello.
Exactly. So a lot of, now that I think about it, I mean, I listened to, growing up, it was like 80s pop music coming out of New York City because we were in the suburbs, but we got all the radio stations. And my parents met playing for square dances in New York. So
square dances in New York. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
My dad.
All right, what about when you really knew what music was? Where did you go? So you started you like dub reggae, but then you're like now 20. What are you into? What are you into at college?
I got into hip hop. I got into the Roots and Talib Kweli, and
which were all coming through. I mean, when I was at UMass, all these
Exactly.
people were coming through and performing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest. Yeah, that was
Tribe Called Quest. I saw UMass. Like,
dude, I was there.
people.
We were there together.
Yeah.
It was probably their last tour, and they kept being like, what we're taking requests, and they were like, no singles. And all these white kids were like, we don't know which are the we were just like,
yeah, there's that. I went to the one before that where he's like, we're not seeing enough blunts.
Oh, another problem with there were not enough blunts. I mean, I think that music, like I said, Ani DeFranco and the, the female singer-songwriters that were pissed and talking about abortion and talking about their bodies, and I basically went for people who were and that meant anyone who was talking about injustice and needing music as a way to express those feelings. So
absolutely. And look, and most of hip hop and early rap, I mean, that's what that music was, expressing injustice. And unfortunately, not as much now as then did, and did it also in a groovy way. I mean, early hip hop was very groovy, and I still blame 50 Cent for the dumbification of rap. And I do. I just think he really.
There's way worse than 50 Cent. There's way worse.
Yeah, I know, but he was like the top of the shit pile. Yeah, that dumbed everything down. Now I like Run the Jewels, who are not that new, but they're out there now, which I really like them. But but I still am more into I'm still more into like Mystical and Face Mob and Scarface and my homies.
In terms of like transgressive, whatever you did like a sound. I mean, did you get into black metal or any of the kind of like weird noise?
Somehow I doubt it.
Stuff? I don't know.
I got into like bands like Hella and Godspeed
Lightning Bolts and
Godspeed You Black Emperor. That was probably as hard as
they're weird. And look, and Carla Boss is doing stuff with Toronto. I mean, I really love what she did in not only the Geraldine Flippers, but in Evangelista. She's one of my favorite vocalists out there. She's amazing. Yeah. And by the way, I want to recommend Adele Bertay's book about LaBelle, if you're into, a sister. Yeah. So she wrote a book. So Tanya Pearson, who also went to Smith, wrote a book on what's important about Marianne Faithfull, and Adele Bertay wrote a book on what's the issue about LaBelle, and it's really good, and it really shows about how first of all a group that was really influential as far as fusing sexuality, Afrofusion, kind of punkish, but that came out of girl groups. It's a really good historical thing, and I really recommend that. And so awesome. It's just a great book to read about a group that rose up and was kind of exploited at first, but then sisters. And by the way, I mean, voulez-vous coucher avec? Come on, Lady Marmalade. I mean, that kind of broke the mold.
I know, right?
It really did.
And I think all of those. I mean, I always feel sad about how few women artists make it, when people are like, what were you listening to? And I'm like, it was like Joni Mitchell, Ani DeFranco, and then Susie and the Banshees, probably. There were a couple that made their way through, but I'm reading.
Well, I'll say Bobby Gentry. That was important.
Well, that's the thing, of course. And we were listening to the oldies radio station growing up, so we got all the best R&B soul. Yeah,
but I mean, it's just been something that's been a white male dominated, and then a black male dominated, stolen from black males, and then white male dominated, and that's the way it is. And sisters are still on the outskirts doing it for ourselves, but we are doing it for ourselves.
Always do.
Merrill Yards doing it for herself.
Merrill, can you name drop some popular musicians or music that you hate with all your might? Just like, I really hate this.
I didn't think that's where you're going. I was like, that I hate. Oh, it's very.
Or that just really irk you. Like, why would anyone like this?
Well,
the list is long. But
you must have some.
I must have some. You think I'd have more?
I have tons.
I have. You go. That it'll be
Pearl
like
Jam.
That's not today. That's like 20 years ago.
No, just they still get radio.
I have a better question. Okay. Merrill.
She hates your question more than she hates other bands.
I've been there before. Don't worry. I've been there.
Merrill,
before.
I know. This is kind of a conundrum at the moment.
Conundrum.
So on one side, we've got the Snowflakes. On the other side, we got Cardi B. Where the fuck are we supposed to position ourselves? You know what I mean?
I'm in a Cardi B.
Well, yeah, me too. But why don't you get up there and fucking twerk for me, Timmy doll?
No one wants to see that. No one wants to
I
see
do.
that.
Hey, I saw your plumber's crack. It's pretty damn cute.
God.
Hey, who's the queen that makes you wanna bounce? That's Big Frida. I want to see you shake that ass. Show me what it's all about. Now, as a serious question,
Yeah.
between Snowflakes and Cardi B, Merrill, where the frick are
Where
we?
the freak are we? But that's the whole point. There's no, this is a roundabout way of answering your question. Have you read
Go
this
sideways if you want.
Have you read this? There's Angela Davis wrote a history of blues women. Have you read this book?
Ooh, I have not. I will,
It's
though.
super Angela Davis, intellectual, like
Big fan.
academia. Yep. And what, I thought to myself, wow, as she says, have completely underestimated Bessie Smith.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I went,
really,
like I listened to them a lot, but
you got to listen again
of what they're saying.
Let me suggest one thing. Lil Green, a song called "Knocking Myself Out." I'm gonna kill myself, and it's about smoking marijuana in 1941. Lil Green, same period.
Didn't
Lil Green?
The tragedy with Bessie Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, she was in a car accident, and because she was black, they didn't pick her up or take her to a white hospital or something. I mean, it could have been preventative. I mean, she could have lived.
Yeah.
And they just let her bleed to death, right?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm still a huge fan of Billie Holiday. I know it's, it's a different phase after
but
the early blues babes continuation.
My mother saw Billie Holiday the last year of her life, and basically was she in her 40s, but she still needed a cane. Like she was basically like, she's not living much longer. It was
the bad drugs will do that to you. One of my
God.
favorite Billie Holiday songs, "Ghost of Yesteryear." It's the most haunting. But I'm going to just say it again. Lil Green, "Knocking Myself Out," and "Romance in the Dark." And these vocals are amazing. And the theme of "Knocking Myself Out" is about smoking marijuana, and the police are pulling up. This is 1941. And the police say, "Why don't you kill yourself? I'm going to knock myself out gradually by degrees."
Wow. But it reminds me of like there ought to be, and there really are, infinite spaces that female musicians can occupy. It's just that we it just looks like there's no place. But like, I thought way too many years about where I fit in.
Well, you know where you fit in, honey. You fit in your own space.
That's the thing.
That's what we do.
That's the thing. And I used to be called, androgynous as a slur. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Honey, I'm in drag every day. Give me a break. Come on.
That's the thing. I mean, that I guess what I mean to say is time will tell how progressive, transgressive, and just simply ourselves we are, and how courageous we were to be ourselves. And we don't have to worry about that now. And you know what?
Only you can tell yourself that, because you've had a lot of great reviews. People do recognize you have a good audience. So now get out your own way and tell yourself that. Exactly. That's the point of what we do here.
Exactly.
I want to say one last thing.
Tell me.
I'm gonna knock myself out gradually by degrees. I'm not knocking anybody out tonight. Just go listen to Lil Green. We'll see how hard it was. And you know what? Get out your own way. You made your own way. That's where we are.
I'm so glad to talk to you and hear it from your mouth.
Trust. It's a sweet taste in mouth now that I got a little bit of tangerine and vodka in there. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Merrill Tune Yards. Check out their supreme diverse weirdness. It just keeps coming.
Thanks, y'all.